I'm Sam Rose, and this is Commerce is Chaos, the podcast for consumer brand founders who know that building a business is messier than the highlight reel shows. Your supplier just missed their deadline, your top product is out of stock, and your competitors somehow just launched the same thing at half the price. Sound familiar? Every week, we dive into the real problems that keep founders up at night, from inventory disasters to supply chain nightmares, because surviving the chaos is what separates brands that fail from brands that scale. Well, thank you for joining me. We'll jump right into it. But I think we can talk about manufacturing and fashion in the same breath. So this is going to be
amazing. I love it already. And that is truly again, when you do, I think what we do, or you have entrepreneurial, you're bitten by the bug, the whole work-life balance thing was a struggle for a decade for me, of just how to do it better. And then at some point you realize the superpower we have is that if you find the right purpose, it's a different species of balance than everyone else. And work and life intermingle, fashion and work gear is the same breath. It is all the same big ball, and we can embrace it, or we can keep trying to compare ourselves to, others. And that is never
what the shape of it was supposed to be, according to whoever we learned that from when we were becoming.
Right. Yeah, you're so right. So funny.
But you and I were talking earlier about evolution and lateral evolution, and that seems like a version of lateral evolution where it really works in this context.
That's so true.
Jury's out about whether or not it's an actual advancement, but for the individuals to whom it happens and works, the use and needs, I mean, it works. I don't know if we're moving forward, but I've been definitely moved in a direction.
Yeah, a movement is occurring. I just don't know if I'm like a dog, like a dog chasing its tail, thinking that I'm really making things happen out here on these streets. But yeah, by the way, I've slightly internet stalked you because I'm very good at that. That's a skill set of mine, just to say. But yeah, I'm so excited. Yeah, just so excited to chat with you and beyond this, learn more about everything that you do. I get very inspired by humans who lock into a purpose but don't pigeonhole themselves to one lane, because I think the society tries to do that a lot. What do you do? And it's supposed to be a forward pivot, I'm an astronaut, I'm a whatever teacher. And you definitely have not done that, do not do that in your career. And I think it's really beautiful and fascinating. And just your brain, the lives you've lived, the things in a brain, and to hold that left brain, right brain balance is, again, I think it's so neat and rare. So yeah, I'm very excited. And then meeting Zainab too, she's so cool. So I was just let's do all the things.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear.
This is a treat in the day, in the week.
This is the bright point. We're gonna get ourselves over. So sometimes I call it galaxy brain. It's just a lot spinning. And I see that and admire that so much in you too. And I'm really curious how that has changed for you, and how your relationship with your ideas and your life really have changed as you've transformed from effectively helping other people bring their ideas to life to really championing an idea of your own and putting it on the map. And I'm really excited to talk about Khalo, and particularly excited to enter that conversation from the perspective of how has your life changed as a result of starting this business?
Yeah, well, so a mini story time is, before I had my consulting practice, which is Sherpa CPG, I started as a founder. So this was 2010, had a popcorn brand, and it was kind of the last of the Mohicans, back in the day when, if you remember that era of CPG, which you're probably one of the few that do, it was very much Whole Foods. Let's just take that because it's a national kind of pace setter for that channel. Every store was very regionally coded, and buyers were very personable and had long careers there. So you could walk in with your cute little glassine bag tied with a bow of artisanal popcorn, and you'd be this is clean and super cute, don't you want to carry it? And they'd be oh my, it is quite cute, we absolutely will. So you could get a lot of business done that way.
I remember that.
So,
yeah.
I mean,
And so regionally coded that, I mean, that was the 4-wall strategy too, was for that.
Yes.
I remember every Whole Foods was like decorated, painted with like locally inspired murals, and there were always like artisanal local folks. Carolyn's Cookies comes to mind. Carolyn, if
Yes.
you have
No,
your
you nailed
cookies were
it.
awesome.
Yeah, you actually nailed it, and that's a great brand that kind of still is, like, grandfathered in through there, but absolutely, it was, like, a little discovery zone, and there was a lot of, like, adventure around there, and yeah, the murals, I remember them, like, it was an experience to shop there that's different than the experience now, which
Mhm.
is a lot more corporate. It hasn't lost all its flavor, but, when it comes to relationships with vendors, that era, we were started as a cottage industry, and my partner in that company lived in Los Angeles. I
Yeah.
was finishing school at that time in Berkeley. So we actually met at a fancy food show back when it was in San Francisco. And in Berkeley, like that's the farmers market epicenter of the world. And like if you're in college, your fit food group absolutely is kettle corn. So I was like, okay, like a bag that's as big as probably
And
both of
you.
us. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. So, it and being Chinese, like food has always just been the love language. And I don't even mean that in a cheesy way. I mean, if I like walk around saying I love you to my parents, it's awkward. Like that is like I have
Yeah.
to like gear myself up for it. Like it's like a decision. I gotta say it with confidence, like say it with my chest and then let it like lie. Like they might not respond. So it's not a verbally expressive culture when it comes to affection, but like we say it through our food always. Ironically, food is like maybe the least appropriate career path for a child raised in a traditional Chinese family. Like you can
Interesting.
be a doctor, lawyer, maybe an engineer. And like since I have always been a storyteller and knew I was going to major in English, it was like, okay, well then obviously you're going to be like a tenured professor somewhere and or like have a side gig as a lawyer, right? Because
Mm.
just get your law degree. But I did none of those things. I really, really fell in love with this idea of how to build something and share really like the joy of artisanally crafted like flavors and experiences like with the world, because that's the interesting thing about CPG, food and beverage, right? Is like it feels cold, it sits on a shelf, it's not like owning like a restaurant or being like a baker where you get to see a couple eat your wedding cake, which is like
Right.
always
There's
really
an
great to
element of
own the little
hospitality.
cafe. Yeah, like you nailed it. Yeah, I'd always dreamed of if I had a career in food, like it would be like owning a little cafe or something like that. But something my brain clicked that like, wow, if you really could bottle up the power of food as like a way to celebrate others and help others grieve and help, it's just emotions are trapped in food and memories are trapped in food. And so when you share them, it's like an unlock. But yeah, if you could capture that through storytelling and flavor and ingredients, all of that in an actual package, like bottle that magic, like, wow, what an amazing world to be in. Uh,
Yeah.
so yeah, so anyway, that was commercial kitchen or cottage industry to commercial kitchen, also in LA. And then when popcorn started to come out of the walls because we were right, it's like you grow bigger than you grow. That was also happened to be the phase in our like food culture as America where popcorn started to become a category and like people were
Yeah.
suddenly interested in gluten free. So like timing, right? The like
Right.
severely underrated success factor in CPG,
Mhm.
we were just at the right time where it was like there was a company called like Degrees Popcorn, if you
Yeah.
remember that. Skinny
Mhm.
Pop was just launching, like
Kid
Oogies, you
corn.
had
Yeah.
popcorn in Indiana, like Angie's popcorn was huge. So it was like becoming a category. Yeah, and that company grew beyond commercial kitchen. So we bought a factory because 10 years ago nobody was taught the CPG community is not in any way whatsoever what it is now.
Yeah.
Nobody wanted to talk to a little beta fish about co-packing or like we weren't even a small fish. We were like a plankton. Like it was like not, it was like we were like a non-factor, but
The whales
we
don't
were
even
growing.
realize when they're eating you. They just
Yeah.
float through, and then all of a sudden you're dead.
So fun. Yeah, they're like, yeah, just
There's no
water, just
antagonism.
water.
It's completely
That's
passive.
The at the height of that company, we had 25 full-time employees. We're nationally distributed. We're exporting to Japan was our biggest export partner, but we were exporting to like 9 different countries around the world. Own this manufacturing facility. The company is still, alive and running. I left that company in 2014, and the nutshell reasoning why is, over drinks later we can go through that, but I think really it's you realize, like, if you realize that you need a why to really be a long-term entrepreneur. And for me, like, profitability is important, is vital to obviously running a business, but it wasn't my why. Like, I needed a deeper purpose there.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like not in alignment with my partner. And that's right. It's like trust and vision have to be in sync very tightly. So I left that brand and I was like in a spiral for a minute because I was like, wait, I was like the owner of this company and we were growing. And I had like, as a first time entrepreneur, right, like you intertwine your whole identity with the thing that you're building. And you're like, well, I guess I'm just like a loser now and like unemployed. It's like, I'm never gonna work in this town again. What do I do? And it was a real blessing that through human relationships, I realized like, hey, actually, like I have real friends in this industry, and also I have insight into what people need to succeed from 0 to 1, because the gift of having built something from scratch is that, like, I was the formulator. So, right, so like I learned how to scale flavor, like chef driven flavor, like into actual recipes that worked at commercial scale, learn how to actually manage and operate an entire factory, do the marketing, learn the lexicon of sales, and right, like really build out things like a supply chain, and understanding certifications, and just true like commercialization from 0 to 1, which is a very opaque piece of food entrepreneurship. It's like we don't really talk about it. We just think, oh, when I get into a co-packer, my dreams are going to be answered and suddenly I'm going to have a bunch of inventory. And I learned, or I taught myself graphic design through that experience of that first brand because, well, quite honestly, at the time, I was like, I'm not paying $80 an hour to some rando to
Yeah.
like draw me a square. And I'm like, hey, give me a blue square. And he's like, here's 4 yellow triangles. And I'm like, are you aggravating? So, right, it's like learning the skill sets because of desperation and
Yeah.
frugality,
And I
really.
mean, and that can happen. Yeah. Desperation and frugality,
Yeah,
right? Like that can happen at almost any point, at almost any scale, and
you're
across
so right.
such a variety of disciplines. At some point, you're like, oh man, I just have to figure this out myself. Like, there's no
Yeah,
other answer. And the figuring it out of it today is like so gentle, right? Like you can ask ChatGPT literally anything, and I mean, it'll walk you through like step by step exactly what to
right.
do. But 10 years ago, it was not so luxurious. I mean, you really had to go to the end of a much smaller internet to find those answers, or just
Oh,
like
I love how
experiment.
you phrase that. I love how you phrase that. It was a much smaller internet, and source it was much more clear which sources were reasonable or trustworthy versus which ones were like just some, keyboard warrior like in a corner of the world, like, raging out on
Yeah.
knowledge equity. But yeah, these skills that I'm very thankful now to have learned from the bottom, because I've always had, I think, confidence in my ability to shape a narrative for an objective. So I call that storytelling now from like a culinary lens, but because food and cooking really is, and I call it a love language really because it's about, like, everything I've realized now in my whole career at the end of the day is about human connection. And I don't just mean human to human, I mean human to self, human to nature, like human to spirituality. So, right, like food is that beautiful gift that we have where without the barrier of spoken language, like there's certain ingredients or certain textures or certain aromas that just is like triggers something that makes us feel that we have like a baseline of humanity that we all engage on, regardless of our differences. And I think it is the most powerful way that you can honor your like physical self, as well as really like your holistic, right? It's like this binary of, "Oh, I'm gonna eat this thing, it's gonna make me feel guilty," versus not guilty. Is like I don't subscribe to that, because food should just make you feel strong or bring you joy. Or if it makes you sad, like maybe don't eat it
Yeah.
or as much of it. But yeah, so, I thought that once I left my first brand, I was like, okay, well, I know how to do the packaging. I'm the formulator. Like, I know how to scale things. Obviously, I'm just going to start another brand. Obviously, like, and I'm going to do it my way, and I'm going to do it right.
Yeah.
And then, like, it took like about 2 months of me thinking through the right trillion ideas that I had, that I was like, something doesn't feel right about this actually. Like, it's exactly like it's a lateral move. It's like, if I start a new brand right away, I'm just going to be mired in figuring out how I'm going to afford it, how to scale it. Like, is that really the best use of my desire to impact the world? And like, whatever grab bag of weird skills you gain as an entrepreneur. And at the same time, like, I think just slowly putting it out into the world that I was like a free bird,
Yeah.
right? Which takes a little bit of like getting over the shame of being like, again, like an unemployed loser for like a minute, right? Like, people in the industry were like, shit, like, we've been waiting for you, right? It's like, you have things that can apply here and add value. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I didn't know that was a thing. Like, I didn't know that money could be exchanged for these things that I find to be really challenging and fun to solve.
Yeah. Well,
And that, yeah.
I think to build on that too, because I have a similar narrative of sort of having started a brand and then started
Mm.
an agency and then going back into brand.
Ooh,
Um,
you get it. Yeah.
and when you're building your own brand, especially bootstrap. I mean, I worked for free. My joke is I make money once every 10 years. Just like totally worked for free and had to learn all of these things for free. And effectively, like, I don't know, this is sort of a twisted concept, but like consulted for myself for free. Just like, how do I do this
Mm.
thing? Well, let me go ask myself and we'll figure it out. And the shift from doing that effectively for free or just as a service to like the business and the team to trying to figure out how to like put a number on that and monetize it was really
Mm.
interesting. When I started Manifest, I'm like, okay, I'm doing all of the same things that I did yesterday, but now I'm, well, with a layer. The layer is education, and then I suppose monetization in a much much different way. But if I was like developing a product strategy or doing industrial design or like working on whatever it was, brand identity, logistics planning. I mean, all that stuff was stuff I just had to do before,
Yeah.
and the way that I monetized that was through selling spatulas. And then like you fast forward to building around an agency around it, and you're like, okay, well, I'm actually doing like pretty much the same thing, but I have to educate people and I have to put a value on that time now because it's just a whole different model.
You really know that was, I think, the hardest part of my journey, like, is because even when I left my first brand, right, there's a whole pocket of time, the black hole of time, where I was like, I have zero value, negative value, right? It's
Mm,
like, clearly I'm worthless. And then there is so much power in being a generalist that also knows how to go very deep into both strategy and execution, which it sounds like I'm like loving learning like more little tidbits about how we align, because I do think it's a very rare like leapfrog, like from lily pad to lily pad, the mental work that you do to go through kind of how we navigated
yeah,
where we are now. Because with the consultancy, it's even, I think, just articulating the value of how a generalist in any industry is actually able to outperform some subject matter experts
yeah,
because of efficiencies, right? And it's
yeah.
like time is money. And the idea, like you brought up, putting a price on it, is like, I I'm sorry, like, I can't charge hourly because then I'm punished for like kind of being badass at what I do. Like,
Right.
right? Like, I don't know how to. I don't know how to like work slower for you. I only have one mode. I
Yeah.
don't have like a Victoria Light mode. So you're not really paying for my time, you're paying for my experience. And like we will get this thing done in 3 months versus a year and a half. It's very difficult for emerging brands to no fault of their own. Because I put myself in their shoes all the time as like, well, yeah, like that would be a tough proposal to swallow. So it's being able to really have confidence in yourself too, that like we do have limited bandwidth, like the right projects will come. And then having the grace, I think the second lesson in agency journey is like you're not gonna win every project and that's okay. But also some of the projects that you do gravitate towards, like they're not going to rocket ship, right?
Yeah.
Like they may not ever even launch. And you still put a lot of effort and a lot of work into it. And like, can you all be proud of yourselves at the end of the day that like you did something meaningful for that pocket of your life? It's like, that's like a lesson in progress daily. But yeah, and on the agency side, like I had the incredible opportunity to work with brands like Terra Fertil, which was supported by the whole Nestle Foods arm. So really seeing how Big Food operates, which gave me insight into like, okay, maybe I don't want to put my superpowers towards that. Like
Yeah.
really getting closer and closer to what makes the most impact.
I'm curious, what are like the just in memory, what's kind of like the most, I don't know, touching or impactful difference that you experienced between big food to, well, I guess we'll call it small food.
That's
Other than
such a
what we
good
can all guess, right? Like we
question.
know that big ships move slowly, but yeah, like what was your biggest takeaway?
Such a great question. I guess if I can cheat and put two on it, one,
Oh
it's
yeah. Put 10.
there are a couple. One, it's that they had some really incredible human beings in their system, and it hurt me to see them in a system where their genius hit a ceiling of the ship, like you said. And it's just right. It was like what's crazy is when they're able to hook in, let's say, like an ex-entrepreneur or someone with that hustle because they're so valuable and bring them in. It's like you kind of see over time the aggregate pressure of big food, like kind of buffing away, just like their
Yeah.
joy in the hustle
Yeah.
because it's all about meeting a timeline. That was fascinating to watch because it's right. You can almost see them like if they were in a slightly different team or had a direct line of communication with someone higher up, like they would be like they should be the senior VP of something. That was fascinating. Also, hilariously, like even big food has supply chain challenges. And you would think that, like, if you were formulating for big food, like you would have all the resources in the world, which technically you do, but it's almost ironically like the budget is smaller because they have such a clear idea of what they need their margins to be that kind of everything. And maybe the biggest takeaway is, this industry now, let me just talk about the industry for a minute because a lot of it is still run by big food and all of the, I think, people who are eyeing food and beverage now because it's gotten a little reputation for being like a little bit sexy. Like in the 80s when we were coming, it was not sexy to be a food entrepreneur.
Mm.
Now it's like, oh, that's a cool side quest that I'm going to go on for a couple years. And I see a lot of people doing what is common in big food, which is you build a product by spec to hit a white space. Most emerging brands, a lot of the founders that I work with, or even if you look across the landscape of which brands are the most exciting to consumers, like they're not chasing white space. They're honoring a heritage or like translating a childhood memory into something that is more wellness focused. Like there's a purpose behind it besides like this algorithm is not filled of this product that people demand. We're going to pour marketing dollars on it to like build a brand and it's going to do ABC for this demographic and we're going to launch it and it's going to be a blast. And like sometimes those products work because they're just a more cost-effective version of something else that's happening, right? Like these Me Too products, and because they have such distribution power, like why do most people buy most things? Because they found it. Like, right? It's like access to it.
Yeah.
Whereas the most incredible products made by emerging brands like have to figure out how to grow beyond their neighborhood and then their region and their state. So that was fascinating, like just the white space innovation
Yeah.
strategy versus like purpose driven or human driven innovation and how those different pipelines work. Yeah, and then I guess the most fascinating thing was like I always wondered like why me? Like why am I here? Like right? It's
Mm.
like you guys, like whether it's Nestle or Unilever or Tyson or any of these large brands, like you guys have the network and the financial runway to like build the most epic squad of like, right? You have like 20 well-trained food scientists like in your like armada of human,
Yeah.
right? Like you have all the things. And I would say like you can see the impacts of my point here, which is like, oh, right, the acquisitions that have been happening lately, I mean the past, 6 to 10 years or 5 to 6 years maybe, is because they're such, you put it so well, like because like they're such a lumbering beast, right? Such a big ship, like they can't move at a pace that's scrappy enough to keep up with the innovative emerging brands.
Yeah.
So they can either acquire them or they have to bring in human talent that has a brain that hasn't been like, washed out by working in big food, which is, I think there's more of us out there now that have like been in this zone of true hands-on innovation, which is really building things that improve upon the current. And again, not just like, oh, you make strawberry prebiotic soda. Well, I'm going to make like orange prebiotic soda. And now it's like an innovation. It's like, no, who made that first prebiotic soda, right? Like, how do
Yeah.
you pioneer categories in honor of like human wellness or again, human connection? So yeah, like I think about that every day because I'm very thankful for all of those experiences because there are like little glimmers of really great things that
Yeah.
I saw that I can borrow and import into my work with emerging brands. And a lot of that, I'll give it to them, is like systems, right? Just like having clear systems and honestly, like accountability, like for documenting everything, like really clear hierarchies of communication for how things are going to be launched. Like there's a lot of strategy that they've baked into like templates of process
Yeah.
and also just really developing like my own sense of how to commercialize towards a process and not get mired in feelings,
Yeah.
like on factory floor in a team. It's like we are all great people, we will have our feelings conversations later,
Later.
but
We're
right,
gonna have
like,
feelings later,
yeah,
but right
like,
now.
yeah, exactly. Like right now, everyone buckle down and like move together and like make this thing. And I will say that I really fell in love with like I don't know if you've ever worked like in a restaurant, growing up, like, or a bar or restaurant in a service industry. But yeah, I used to love like when on certain nights, like you just are dancing, right? It's just like a choreography. You have like, yeah, like you have like your nods and your hand signals with the line cooks and your fellow servers. And it just, everything is like so beautifully choreographed because you know each other. So in a factory, like I sometimes get like little deja vu moments of that
Yeah.
same feeling of just like, yeah, like this machine
I
of
know we're
humans
working.
is, I like get shivers when I think about that because yeah, like everyone has to be locked in and you just kind of like it's having a vision that is like time stamped towards a goal of the day. But yeah, and like nothing breaks down and like people are just like moving. That was really cool to experience. Like I got to work at a plant in Mexico and as well as one in Canada over the years. And it was just interesting to see again, like there's a language of production as well, right? It's like
Yeah.
language of food, language of production is like in any factory around the world, if you get it, and you can like speak co-packer, speak production manager, like y'all just fall into the choreography, and that is a beautiful, beautiful thing. And it makes shit happen. Like things happen when people share that same vein of like efficiency and integrity in their work.
Yeah.
So yeah, it all
This
comes
is a
back.
great playbook. Yeah. So, okay, so I have a few rapid fire questions about this.
Yeah,
One is you've been inside this machine, like all sorts of shapes of the machine actually, and you've got,
yeah.
playbooks that you're extracting from that and lessons that you're learning from how to work big and how to work small. But then you start, your own business again and you've got to execute. So, what did you do wrong in your first year that if you had been consulting for someone else, you would have been like, no, 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 no. But
Oh
since
my
you were
God.
doing it for yourself, it was like it happened to you.
That question is so good that I'm like triggered. Well, I'll say this is I would have looked at myself and been like, you know better than to allow like your team to chase fireflies. And I think again, this is a personal flaw or just the way that I was built is right. And we're all just a reflection of the traumas that we're healing from and building from is like I have historically, and I think particularly with my first experience in a brand, like I've historically been the one that gets so excited to be building and solving and giving that sometimes I don't recognize when I'm not being like it's not reciprocal, right?
Mm.
It's like I'm not getting the healing time I need or the fulfillment that I need or XYZ. And so you overextend, I think, your empathy and you cross into the border of being an enabler, right? It's like you go from empathetic leader to enabler quickly. And it's
No, I
hard
got the chill.
when, yeah, right? It's like, and it's not even other people at that point, it's to yourself. You're like, this, it's like, you're going to get this done, but you only know you're going to get this done because you've never failed before. And that's a really hard standard to keep up because you've never even given the people around you an opportunity to say, like, hey, it's actually okay if you like chill for a day because you're right set in your own mind what you want to achieve for your team. And especially when your team is like truly wonderful, brilliant humans that may just not be that well versed in CPG. I
Yeah.
would say is I learning patience for I love what you said earlier about education being such a big component of like the transition to being a consultant because yeah it's like everything when it's in your own brain you're like talking to yourself your own language like you can shorthand it and they're like oh I have to like make this make sense and communicate it to people who may not have the lexicon or like just like the equity knowledge equity to catch up to this and to have patience for that but yeah I would say that I in the first year is really just having a stronger voice for how to be, I guess, more financially, I wouldn't even say financially responsible. It's just advocating more for like what my experience absolutely played out in, right?
Yeah.
And so uh, spending a lot more time on the strategy. And I realize why too. It's because,
One.
again, as a consultant, right, it's like people are on a waiting list to work with me because I have a reputation for being like a tough love, but it's all love, like leader
Yeah.
and they want me to be the no man, right? Versus the yes man and to play devil's advocate and really just to like be a thorn in their side so that we actually don't have to go down the rabbit hole of recovering from the lessons that it is healthy for a lot of entrepreneurs to learn, right? It's like, okay, like maybe you'll never believe me that the stove is hot until you put your hand on it.
Right.
But right, it's like you get rewarded for that. Like that is why people want to work with Sam is because she'll tell me XYZ. So then suddenly, like when it's your team and like your co-founders and like your skin in the game for whatever reason, at least up until now, right? It's like, oh, like, well, maybe it's not no. Like maybe I can find a way to make this red flag into a pink flag and then like into a green flag, right? It's so the kind of I wouldn't even say second guessing of what you know, but almost the intentional silencing of your business acumen because you really respect and admire your team and like want them to feel loved and respected and admired because they are brilliant and beautiful and truly trustworthy humans that like I think yeah like you get too human
Yeah.
and yeah then I think at some point is with Khalo specifically, one thing that I do really love about both my co-founders, Ankita and Jaisal, is that we like made a pact early on that like we're going to try to build the infrastructure of our team in a way that actually reflects our vision and mission as a brand, which means like, right, it's like we're gonna actually work on being real friends and like trusting each
Yeah.
other as real humans and having like sticky conversations when we
For
need
your whole
to. And
self.
it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's like I think that a lot of brands do put in the work to have relationships independently of their business relationships, but not to the extent where I think they're realizing from day one that like, no, this is going to be a part of our lives for the long term. Like this, there has to be a trust
Yeah.
that is
You're
different.
intertwined,
Yeah.
basically. So,
And you
okay.
have to fast track it. Yeah.
I'm going to make what's going to sound like a radical leap,
Ooh.
but it's not. Between what we're talking about in terms of the translation layer between how to do something for yourself and internally and then how to share it with the world or maybe mentor someone, whether it's a teammate or a client, into kind of getting to the conclusion. And I'm going to tie it directly into your product at Khalo. Because Ayurveda, I mean, it's a 5,000-year-old system and you're selling in the US. And, there's some folks that are like, turmeric's really exotic. Ginger's cool, but turmeric, wait. Like, I think they're on the pantheon of roots. Carrots, totally great.
Oh my pantheon of roots. Somebody making that t-shirt right
But here's
now.
what you're doing with the product. You're doing the same thing because you're honoring the traditional wisdom of Ayurveda, and you're also making it approachable for someone who's never heard of that before. That's like a form of consulting. You're just putting it in a beautiful jar,
Ooh.
and then you're kind of walking the line of making sure that you're not dumbing it down too much. Like right? You have to respect your customer, your client, and you want them to celebrate or at least tap into the authenticity of what you're selling, but you can't make it too scary or too unfamiliar. There's this concept in industrial design called most advanced yet acceptable,
Oh,
Maya.
I like that.
And it's sort of how you define what cool is. It's the most advanced yet acceptable. So something that's like too
Mm.
advanced is just, it becomes scary
Weird. Yeah.
or
Weird
weird
or
or whatever. But right on the edge there is like, oh wow, I can relate, but I've never seen
oh, I
anything
love
quite
that
like this
so much.
before.
Yeah.
And I feel like Kahlo is really beautifully walking that line. And I love just tying kind of like your two paths to this present and recognizing that like you're bottling the thing.
No, you're kind of a genius. Like I can immediately apply that to like the music world, right? Music industry, especially pop culture music and fashion.
Mm.
But yes, with food, absolutely. Like, does it become esoteric? And again, with timing, some things hit too soon. Like maybe we're not ready for like cricket wing, elderberry twig seltzer, even though someone's gonna make that and be like, this is the next big thing that's gonna change all
But
our
drop a
lives.
note in the comments if that's a thing that you want us to
Yeah,
go
right?
through.
Someone's like, "Oh, you stole my idea." I'm like,
You're gonna
"No,
have
I
to figure out
will."
the cricket
Yeah,
supply chain.
it's not the thing. But I really loved how you framed that because one of the tenets of Kahlo is right is to truly meet people where they are. And that even stems from a lot of digestive wellness, or right, the cool thing to say now is gut health products, right? Being either something you take before a meal or after a meal, right? It's like
Mm.
a supplement or it's some sort of reactive, like counterbalance to some issue that you're suffering or some symptom that you're suffering because of like a weak digestive system. So Kahlo really wants to introduce Ayurveda as like a tool that you can apply to literally the food you are already eating and food that you love, and basically getting more nutritional bang for your buck out of the food that you are already eating
Yeah.
versus, right? Like the food you eat is crap. Like, here's how to fix that. Load yourself up with probiotics or have like a Beano pill or something after. It's like, what
Oh
if the
man,
actual
no, I
food
haven't
you
heard that
love,
in a long time.
right? Yeah, like what if the food you already love and already have in your pantry and your kitchen could do more for your body? Because, and I love that you brought up the approachability too, because um, Ayurveda, even as a term, I think is like a weird journey in the United States, right? It's
Mm,
like it kind of came in through yoga, but yoga kind of started as this like very elitist practice that was not very approachable, and then got a reputation as being like this crunchy granola alt exercise. And now, yeah, is very mainstream, but maybe has like lost a bit of its authenticity as like a form of, like connection with oneself, or like as a holistic exercise. And then, Ayurveda was really embraced by like health and beauty as a sector of the industry, right? But like a lot of those brands are also, they're very, I mean, they're gorgeous, but they're very expensive, and not everybody can have like a beauty and wellness like whole routine or ritual. And so it's like food remains this open like field where, aside from like a couple maybe like teas, right, or spice blends, which to your point, it's like they're a little bit difficult to like get into as like a daily product, because it's like, do I want something as potent as like coriander like in my, cookie or things like that? It was, and all very like South Asian focused, because sure, that's the heart and the centerpiece of the Ayurvedic practice, but we want to be borderless. And, we're honoring the South Asian roots with the name Khalo, which means let's eat in Hindi, right? Is not so much Ayurveda coded as it is like just making food joyful.
yeah,
And also, in kind of like the 1 minute overview, I am I guess we call a survivor of lupus, and a very serious diagnosis of lupus when I was in my teens, so sophomore year of high school. And for anyone that's not familiar with it, it's an autoimmune disease, and it attacks one of your internal organs and like really just wrecks your immune system, and your body starts to fight against itself. So at that time, which was in the late 90s, like there wasn't really a way to combat lupus outside of chemotherapy. And
yeah,
so I left high school for a year, went through 22 rounds of chemotherapy, like did the whole cool, like lost all my hair and like all of that cool
oh my
chemotherapy
god,
stuff. Right before heading to college, finished my last round of chemotherapy freshman year of college. But all of that is to really say, like, my gut was like destroyed for years.
yeah,
And as like a young woman, not only did I have to kind of fight the body image and self-worth battle in those formative years, which now I'm very thankful for, because, right, I just tell myself every day, like, you can't judge physicality. Like, everybody's going through something, everybody has a story. But most powerfully, it was like I had to learn how to eat again. Like, I didn't even know what hunger was.
yeah, yeah,
I didn't have a gut. I like technically couldn't eat so many things because my lupus affected my kidneys, which are
mm,
quite important to your health. And so, right, like sodium and things like that, I had to watch a lot of micronutrients. And I discovered Ayurveda through that journey of like learning how to eat again, and
yeah,
really understanding like the potency of spices and herbs to heal the gut. And again, luckily being in Berkeley, right, it's like you have all these tools around you, herbology and farmers markets and
yeah,
organic food. And so it was like kind of a magical way of learning. And then all the yoga, right, is like to really understand what holistic wellness could be. But on your point of approachability, I didn't actually know that that was Ayurveda
right,
until years later, because it was just like these tools. And so, in a way, like Kalo is rooted in the science of Ayurveda, but it's almost like an intentional messaging strategy for us not to lead with that as the be all and end all of the
yeah,
power of digestive wellness, because it's about giving people and their lifestyle like an ability to participate in this beautiful like science and ritual of like eating for you and your peace and for connection and for sharing,
Yeah.
without having to feel like you need like to pass a test to
Right.
be included, right? It's like there's a belonging aspect to it, which I feel very strongly is new to the space of Ayurveda, and particularly with bringing digestive wellness like directly into like your everyday meals,
Yeah.
is a bit more, I think, I don't know, kind
Yeah.
and inclusive for humans.
Oh
Yeah,
my
and
God.
it's like I get to, like have something that I can use every day that's like, okay, I got like my, daily dose of like the ginger and the 20 spices,
Right.
which some
Right.
days
It's
even,
yeah.
like even for those of us who do cook, I'm like, okay, like mama doesn't have time to like, pick
Dude,
20 different bottles off the
do
shelf
this
and
right
like
now.
mix them
Yeah.
together.
I love that accessibility aspect of the story and the self-love piece of it where you're just like, yeah, I need this and also I want to share it. And
Yeah.
holding those two things together, I need and then I want to share is I think so much a part of kind of the fabric of dedicating your life to like making
Yeah.
invisible things real.
No, that is such a good way of putting it. Oh, and fun little tidbit I have to share is
Okay.
right. It's like we talk about authenticity all the time, and with making Ayurveda something that's translated like through three humans who now live in the United States, right? You think about Ayurveda, you think about ghee and maybe like sesame oil, kind of these traditional iconic ingredients.
Yeah.
We chose this beautiful organic olive oil that's grown and harvested in California because that is to us an authentic way of one making Ayurveda more inclusive to people that are maybe plant-based or who don't want to include animal fats in their diet. But also, right, it's like we live in America. We have all this research now around the health benefits of olive oil, and you're supporting like your domestic agriculture and all the incredible farmers who are the backbone of like food everywhere. It's like a
Yeah.
way of bringing the story a little bit closer to home. And I think that is an element of a lot of entrepreneurs today around the world who are like, how do I capture authenticity? And in my consulting, what I encourage them to do all the time is like there is the heritage that you grew up with and maybe what people on the outside think of as authentic, but the definition is very different now because
Oh,
your framing of authenticity is whatever hyphenates you have in your own journey. So if you're like I am, if you're a Chinese American woman, whatever, right? Or like, yeah, like a black immigrant or whatever it is, like your authenticity is how you translate your journey into your product. And luckily, most people in America now like are rocking some sort of hyphenate. And like that element of being open to or opening doors to belonging
yeah.
is what makes your product so tangible and so approachable. It's not making people feel like they have to like earn their way to being able to participate in it. And that's so important, I think, for wellness, period.
Wow. It's such a beautiful note to end on. I cannot put it better. Thank you so much for doing what you do in the world and helping other people do it too. If people want to find Khalo, where can they find it? What's the best place to support your
Um,
mission?
Thank you so much. So we're headquartered in New York. I'm in California, so right, dinner at my place is always an option. But
There you
otherwise,
go.
being hoppy online to
Address in the
Khalo.
show notes.
Yes, khaloworld .com is where you can buy our products now online. And if you are in the New York area, we have an incredible partnership with this most amazing restaurant chain called Inde, which is kind of bringing the flavors and the foods of India through like a lot of really healthy, fresh ingredients, like to your everyday. And they have 8 locations, I think, in Brooklyn and in the city right now.
Yeah.
Khalo is infused into their quinoa and lentil base of these like awesome, like very 2025 like bowls, right? It's like we're all bowl people now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
base there, and it's super delicious, and the team there is awesome, so you can kind of try it for lunch any day of the week if you are visiting New York or live.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you again for joining. Run, don't walk to get a bowl from Inde and visit Khalo World. And so excited to see you building what you're building. Thanks again.
Thank you, Sam, so great to chat with you.
Bye. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Commerce is Chaos. If you're listening, I have a feeling you know just how much good leaving a 5-star review can do for a team. Drop us a review on Apple Podcasts and subscribe to Commerce is Chaos wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to subscribe to our Substack, also called Commerce is Chaos, for more good stuff and actionable tools to build your business.